Hi, Ben.
Hi, Carl.
I feel like I always have to try to make you feel uncomfortable before I start the episode because it's always my responsibility for some reason. We did it like the first episode, and then we did it the second episode, and then it's like shit. Now we have to do this all the time.
This
Um,
is this yeah. It's a
but I
tradition.
have, but I have to make you smile. Like I
I,
can't
I
fake it. So
smile
I have
every
to.
time. Every time I
I
smile.
know. I'm aware because I have to do all the heavy lifting and try to make you feel really uncomfortable and awkward over Zoom or Riverside or whatever, so that you're just like awkwardly smiling before I even say, "Hey Ben" or "Hi Ben."
Exactly.
I can't say, yeah.
You always do it right, but then when you reference it, you do it wrong. That's kind of the theme that's been happening.
It's some kind of like self-conscious muscle memory
Mm.
thing, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, I do that. That's totally the podcast way. It's all muscle memory. But anyways, it's good to see you.
You too.
We could pretend we didn't just have a previous conversation, uh, just now, and that it was last Wednesday. But we
Yeah,
we
that
ran
was
out of
totally
episodes.
last. Yeah, don't tell them. No, that's no. Definitely throw open the curtain. Yeah, we're gonna pretend that we did not just literally stop recording and then hit record again like 2 minutes later.
People got to know that
Uh,
we're committed to this. When we're
we
down
are.
to the wire, we get on the call, right?
Oh yeah, we make it happen, and it's tricky. I mean, I will say like I am proud of us for not lapsing, considering we both have small children, all of the like the war going on, everything. There's a lot happening, and yet we're still making it work, even if it's a little down to the wire
Down to the
sometimes.
wire. And even if we have to
But
re-release an episode or two, that's all right. There's enough in the bag.
yeah, now the good thing is, I think by the time that this comes out, we will have already recorded a our first interview episode as a duo,
Yes.
having a third person join us. We're not going to say who it is, just in case it doesn't actually happen or we have to reschedule or whatever. But no, I think it's going to be great, and I'm excited for it to be a three-way phone call, a three-way,
Yes.
whatever this is,
Conversation.
three-way conversation, and it's going to
Yeah.
be pretty fun.
I'm pretty pumped about it also, by the way. Yeah. It's good. Like I love chatting with you, and it's like there's like the rapport, but it's also fun to get more people's thoughts and stuff into the mix to kind of get our brains percolating, and hopefully the listeners' brains percolating too.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
and
So,
also
so
the fact that it's somebody that's never been on this show before.
that's right. But we're also gonna have some repeats. Just y'all wait. Just wait
Yeah,
and
it's
see.
going to be so some updates, not repeats. You got to
Yeah.
spin it.
Well, it's gonna be yeah. Well, it's gonna be a whole new format of interviews. So I'm excited about that also. So speaking of changing things up, uh,
Ooh.
we thought we would talk about future proofing your business, your music business today on the podcast because the world is changing quick. God knows we need to adapt. So yeah, I thought we'd start by me asking you a question because this is something that you seem to have nailed down a little bit better than I have. And you know how as like a freelancer or a solopreneur, there's feast and famine periods, and there's times where it's just like you can't even like breathe because you have so much work, and then there's times where like, is this over? And I have been through many of those cycles, and I've kind of done my own thing to sort of survive, but I don't think I've maintained the same sort of like constant flow of foot traffic the way you have. So maybe you can talk about, or you could like start this conversation off by talking about how to destroy having famine and feast cycles and how to consistently have work coming through your door so that you're not always either too stressed about the work you have or too stressed about the work you don't have. Carl Bonner.
And go. Okay. Uh, no. Okay. So I think fundamentally what it comes down to is most producers and engineers are reactive when it comes to their business and when it comes to lead generation. They are reactive, and when there's a lot of work, they're reacting by focusing on getting all the work done and not putting any effort or thought or proactive energy into finding the next round of clients. And then when that big burst, that big wave of projects start to wind down, and suddenly they realize before they know it, oh crap, I don't have anything booked for the next 2 months. And then they react to that by, trying to, they're spamming everybody that they know. They're putting out Facebook group posts saying that they're going to do, half off mixes for the month of August or whatever it is. And next thing you know, they're overbooked, and they're booked out by not the right kind of clients, because they're people that are making the most of the low prices, and they're making the most out of your desperation. And then you realize that they're going to drain your energy and your creativity, and you get burnt out and you get tired. And then you're so focused on just getting those projects over the finish line that you don't have any time left or energy left or desire or motivation to start looking for that next round of clients. So then when it's just a cycle that goes and up and down and up and down. So the thing that I think is the not so secret that you really need to be doing is always be doing lead generation, always be looking for clients, no matter how busy you are. Like, there's no such thing as being too busy to find clients. Because if you're too busy to find clients, number one, it's temporary. Or number two, you desperately need to raise your rates because there's too much demand and you're not, you're not scaring enough people away, And I think more people are hesitant to raise their rates. Well, I don't know. Actually, no, I feel like people are pretty hesitant to raise their rates, and they're also pretty hesitant to be proactive with consistently looking for clients. Because that's the big takeaway is if you want to consistently get clients, you have to be consistently trying to get clients. If you're waiting around for clients to show up, like, you're not in control of that. That's what that's when the waves come in. And that's when it's feast or it's famine. But if you're constantly looking for clients, regardless of if you're busy or not, if you're busy, but you still have time carved out to be actively trying to find new clients, then instead of reacting to being busy by pulling away from looking for the next, the next round of clients in the future, put that effort into, instead of reacting to being busy by pulling away from the outreach and letting off the gas and just focusing on the projects you're working on, react to it by raising your rates. React to it by using that as the confidence to know that if you have a potential client and you're pretty busy, you have the confidence to, raise your rates by $50, $100, whatever it is. Because if they say no, you're still busy. It's fine. But if they say yes, then that's a little confidence boost that, maybe people are willing to pay more than I realized. Because when you're able to raise your rates and get more people to pay you, it's not just for the purpose of making more money. It's for the purpose of, giving yourself some more time. You don't have to do as many projects to make the same amount of money. There's a quality of life that you're able to maintain when you're actively trying to find more clients, because you don't have that feast or famine. You don't take on clients you don't want just to pay the bills, and then you're not overly stressed out because you don't like the music, you don't like the people. So to consistently get clients, you need to be consistently getting clients, and going out and finding clients, creating leads.
And it sounds like this is also a virtuous cycle as opposed to a vicious cycle. Because the more client outreach you do, the more you can raise your rates and say no to people that you don't necessarily want to work with as much or can't pay you as much as you want to make. And so just like the level of quality of, the client just keeps going up. And then you have also more time because you're saying no to continue to do the lead generation and to continuously kind of go down that rabbit hole of finding more aligned clients, more aligned artists for you to work with. So it's just sort of like rather than just kind of letting things be and, riding the cycles like a roller coaster, you can control it yourself, and and in doing so curate the kind of work life you have.
And I think it helps when you treat it like, we all say it's a long game, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and I think a lot of producers and engineers look at our careers and kind of have an instinctive understanding that that's the case. Like, we know that we're going to be in this for the long game, but then when it comes to lead generation and to finding clients and like making social media content that actually attracts the right people, and doing the things that any business needs to do to market themselves and find more clients. When it comes to that aspect, we kind of forget the marathon part and we just sprint, and then we get exhausted and we just stop and pass out on the sidewalk. I don't know how that metaphor would continue, but it's basically like sprinting or doing nothing. It's either like going to the gym 3 hours a day every day, or eating a bag of Doritos by yourself, watching the same episode of Lost over and over again, looking for plot holes. Maybe that's too specific, but
it's very specific, but like I feel like that's a good show to reference for that. Amazing. So yeah, awesome. So this is kind of like the first bit. I think this is the most important part about future proofing your music business, is the kind of like gaining control of your lead gen and not leaving it to the fates and to those like sprints and stops like you were talking about. I think that's kind of the most important thing. And I love how you kind of defined it just now for the audience. I would say beyond lead generation, I think there's also the concept of following up and staying in touch with your, the clients, the artists you're working with, because they may have forgotten that you exist and they may be thinking about their next song, but they haven't reached out to you. And by doing, this also could, this plays into maybe social media posting and other ways you could stay on top of people's minds. But there's also, it's not just lead gens. It's like current people that you've already been in touch with, have already worked with. You kind of want to stay on top of that, on those relationships, so that they remember you and continue to work with you as the years go on and even as time passes. I think that's like another thing. Do you have any tips maybe for staying on top of things? Like you don't really need a CRM, or maybe you do. Like I don't know. Any tips for staying on top of those things?
Okay, so this maybe a good example is a client that I just locked in today. It was an artist that I first met, might have been pre-COVID, actually. I'm wondering when the first time we worked together was. But it's someone that I did a couple mixes for over the years. But I don't think we've done anything together since maybe 2021. But just because we hadn't done anything since 2021 doesn't mean that I stopped talking to them. And once every 6 months or so, I would just say hi. That's it. Just say like, hey man, hope you've been good. Just wanted to say hi. And I meant it. I just wanted to say hi. I wasn't trying to like say, hey, have any songs you want to give me money to make sound better? There wasn't any ulterior motive. It was just like, hey, you're cool. Just want to say hi, and then, by just doing that and just becoming the person that checks in genuinely and just, it takes you literally 2 seconds to, well, maybe not literally 2 seconds. Maybe it takes you like 15 seconds to send a message like that for a client that you haven't worked with in a while. And I don't know if they listen to this podcast or not, but like, I think the rate that we're doing at least doubled, maybe close to tripled since last time that we worked together, and like wasn't an issue at all. So it's even worse for people that have paid you less money in the past. So I feel like, not everyone's going to be able to make that kind of a jump, but if you make yourself the one that cares more than everybody else, and even if it's a simple act of, saying hi every half a year, that's still more than most people are doing. So this is like a very easy, quick tip that doesn't require a CRM, but uh, I always shout from the rooftops how important I think it is to keep an on-running portfolio playlist of everything that you've done, even if it's not public facing, even if it's just for your own, internal use. But every couple months, I'll just go through my like not so full discography playlist on Spotify that has at least everything that I've found that's on Spotify. There's always stuff that was like Bandcamp only or stuff that came out, 20 years ago that I don't think ever made it onto a digital platform. But everything that I could find is on there. And I'll just literally just scroll through it and just go down memory lane just to remember some of the songs that I've worked on, some of the artists I've worked with. Because number one, that usually sparks ideas for social media posts because I could tell the story about, something that I learned from that or something that I would have done differently or what I would have handled differently with, the years of experience that I have now that I did not have when I worked on that song. But then also it's a great way for me to be like, oh man, I haven't talked to Stephanie in like 2 years. I need to just say hi. So there's a lot of value in having that and being able to just go back and
Yeah, I
revisit
love that. It's kind of like when you go through your, well, at least I have a Android phone, but so like just searching through your Google Photos, and you could just like, I don't know, Google will just like say, hey, remember that time from 2 years ago or whatever? But like also just like scrolling through your photos and just like seeing all the things that happen. It's nostalgic and it's nice and it brings back warm fuzzy memories. And hey, remember that person? Like let's shoot them a message. Yeah, that's a great tip to get like a little portfolio of all the things you've done, so you just kind of can go back through the time and reminisce and reconnect.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah. It's not as daunting as it may seem. Like my playlist, I think has, I don't know, probably like 1,000 songs on it, something like that.
Wow.
That I've been able to find on Spotify. But like, did it take a while to put together when I was first doing it? Yeah, but also I just kind of did it as I remembered it. As a song, as I randomly remembered a song or an artist that I worked with, or I saw, I don't know, like somebody liked my Instagram post, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this thing I did with them back in the day, and I just added it. And now, just when a new song comes up, and now when a new song comes out, I will automatically just go in. I'll just, by habit, I add it to my full discography playlist, and I'll add it to my 2024 releases playlist. And I use the like year by year playlist for me to be able to go back and like recap what I worked on. And also it's really great for like generating Spotify recommendations for other artists that are similar to the ones that you worked with, which is a whole like, I call it algorithm food. It's like a whole process that I used by training Spotify's algorithm to generate leads for you. But having those two playlists, I just automatically will add any new release to both of those. But it serves a lot of purposes. So it does seem kind of daunting to go through and do that, but it's great for rekindling or like sparking ideas for social media posts. It's really great for reminding you to just reconnect with someone that you haven't talked to in a while. It's great for making recommendations of other artists that are kind of like the stuff that you've worked on. Like it's very much worth the time.
Awesome. Great tip. Thanks, Carl.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
I think we'll get into. I think we maybe touched on the algorithm foodie thing. I'm sure we'll get deeper into that again at another point. I have one more thing on my notes here of things I wanted to maybe just talk about on this specific episode about future-proofing your business, and that's kind of like just like keeping up with the trends of what's happening in the industry, and because everything is moving really fast, especially with AI, like we spoke about. It's just good to know what's happening. You don't want to be left in the dark as things go. Things are just moving so fast. And I guess I could just like recommend like one resource that I use, and maybe you could recommend a couple of resources maybe that you have. Like I love Bobby Owsinski's podcast. He just seems to always be on top of what's happening in the industry. I don't exactly know where he gets his sources from, but he that's like a resource. Bobby's been on the show. You could check out that episode. I don't know, maybe 60 or 70 episodes ago. But he's awesome. He's a legend. And yeah, and his podcast is just a great way to know what's happening. Like I'll always listen to his like NAMM recaps and end of year episodes where he just kind of goes what he thinks is what happened, what he predicted would happen, and what did and didn't happen, and what he's predicting for like the next year. That's just like a great resource to just kind of see where the industry's at, because got to know about that stuff. And obviously I go on YouTube and I find things, and I see things on Instagram. Like one of as much as Instagram annoys me sometimes and is a bad place, it's a great way to stay on top of what's happening in the industry, because you just see what all your friends and connections are doing and what they're up to, and that kind of also keeps me informed. So yeah, those are kind of like a couple addresses that I go to for keeping up with the times. Do you have anything to add to that, Carl?
Man, I don't know if this is necessarily adding to the resources part, but this is going back a hair and clarifying something that you said.
Go for it.
Because you said about how important it is to follow trends. And I just want to say that I think there are two kind of different definitions or different ways that we could look at following trends. There's kind of like a good way and a bad way, I think. There's the bad way, which is seeing what everybody else is doing and doing that because everybody else is doing it, right? Like when we think of, Tide Pod challenges, right? Like that's something that we don't want to do, just doing what everybody else is doing because they're doing it. But I think what you were talking about, which is more of a positive way, which is just being aware of the things that are happening, being conscious of the changes, rather than just saying, old man, cursing the clouds. It's like being aware of the changes that are happening, being aware of the trends, being aware of where the industry is headed, but then, being thoughtful about, well, what are the things that I can integrate into my business, into my workflow, into my creativity, that I think is going to make for a better end result and a better experience for the people that I'm working with, versus what's just, the hot new thing that everybody else is going to be wasting time and money on that I just don't think really applies to me. But I think it comes down to being aware of what's going on and then thinking deeply and reflecting on, are these changes something that can be beneficial or not, rather than just seeing, oh, there's a change happening and because it's changed, therefore it's bad, and grumble, get off my lawn.
Right. Yeah, I think it's like interesting, like you were saying that, like I was thinking about Atmos, which is like a great example. And there are people who said Atmos is the new thing and I love it and I want to go all in on it and make it my new thing. And like, kudos to those people. And for many other people, it was like, this doesn't really make sense to me and I don't need to do this right now and I'm not going to do it right now. And that's also like super legit, but at least you know that it's happening and you don't have to, and you can make your decision either way, just as an informed person. And, you'll probably double down on whatever decision you make because we have our own biases and stuff. But it's important to at least know what's happening and to be informed about those decisions that you're going to make. And yeah, like you could hate AI and you can know it's happening and you could decide like, I am never using that stuff in music because like on principle, you could like be Jack White about it, and that's a legitimate, sort of reaction to that. And another legitimate reaction to that is I'm going to integrate this in terms of like, prompting soundscapes for the records I'm mixing or whatever it is. Like, it could go in so many ways, but it's important to know what's happening so that you could at least be informed and judicious about the decisions that you make about what's happening. Yeah, I like that.
You're making conscious decisions and thoughtful decisions, not just having a reaction, just like instinctive,
exactly.
like,
yeah. So we'll see what happens, with all these things. There's so much happening, but keep up to date and like you said, like you have to do your thing because that's the only thing really that differentiates anybody, anyways, is sort of doing the thing that you do best. And so like, I mean, like maybe that's more applicable for artists than for mixing engineers, but like.
Incorrect. I'm going to hard fight you on that. It is absolutely for mixing engineers. It is absolutely for
Awesome.
producers. Yeah. Oh
Excellent.
man. Oh yeah.
Excellent.
No, like that's if you want to. I mean, really, if you want to future proof yourself as a studio pro, like differentiate and make it very clear what's different about you, what makes you you.
Yes.
Because now, like 10 years ago, like yes, there were platforms to be able to hire somebody remotely, or you could send files, and I'm sure people would mail tapes across the country to somebody else that makes it in the 80s, whatever. But like realistically,
don't forget the postal service. Don't forget the postal service.
Yeah. But I'm saying but for the vast majority of artists, which 99.9% of them would never be able to go into like a proper. That's a very gross exaggeration. So like a large, there are way more people making music now and releasing music now than had the technology and financial availability to do that 10 years ago. Way more than 20 years ago. Ridiculously more than 30 years ago, right? So now, because of that, an artist could hire somebody down the street from them, or they could hire somebody in Jerusalem. They could hire somebody in Belfast. They could hire somebody in Buenos Aires. They could hire a handsome bald man in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, right? So they have.
You guys are looking for mixing engineers.
Yeah, but I mean, but you really could hire anybody from anywhere, realistically now, which was not really a practical. It wasn't a practical option, even just a couple years ago. Which was not even an option a couple years ago. So, because of that, if you focus what makes you different just on how cheap you are, or how fast you are, or what plugins you have, like you're not different. You might have a slightly different combination of things than other people, but it has nothing to do with what actually sets you apart, which is your personality and your tastes and your experiences and the perspectives that inform the way that you do the thing. So
yes.
What is going to help a mixing engineer or a producer or a podcast editor or whatever moving forward? It's not the service that you provide. The service that you provide does not differentiate you. The way that you use your life experience to inform how you provide those services, that's what's going to make you stick out. And that's what's going to help you to find the right people and attract the right people and continue to do so.
Thank you for getting so animated.
Sorry, this is what I teach.
No, this is the shit. I'm 100% with you. This is like, again, like if I could go back to like, just like lessons I've learned just from being our last episode was lessons we've learned over the last 4 years. Lessons we've learned like, since I've been doing this podcast is like, you got to do you, like, cause if that's it, that's your differentiation. That's what makes you unique in this industry. And that's what's going to give you, like you said, like there's so much noise. Like that, I think what your point about like how many people have access to this technology now. It's like, it's all noise unless there's some static in the noise, like unless you could be you and there's something about you that clicks with people, and that's also going to scratch your creative itches the best. And you're going to have the most fulfillment from that. So yeah, just like think about that for the longevity and the future proofing of your business.
Yeah, but I think to future proof, it's really doubling down on what makes you, not what gear you have or what plugins you use or.
Oh yeah, you had a great little Instagram post this week. I reshared it on the Secret Sonics page. It was something about like gear devalues over time, but
gear like studio gear depreciates, but relationships appreciate. So invest wisely.
Agreed. I mean, there is some gear that does appreciate, but overall I'm with you on that statement. Like aside from like the 1073s or whatever.
Okay. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for.
I gotta just reel it in for the techie people here.
0.0001% of gear is an exception. So therefore, you have to give it equal amounts of airtime.
That's right.
Because now we're talking more about the exception than the actual thing. But that's my fault because I keep on harassing you about it. But yeah, honestly, like the future proofing, like you can spend time on technology to help future proof yourself with keeping up to date on technology and and trends that are happening in the industry and whatever that is. But like foundationally, doubling down on what makes you you is really the way to future proof it, because now people are they could hire any mixer in the world, so they're not going to hire only crappy clients are going to hire the cheapest.
That's
Only
right.
only like, I mean, realistically, only like pain in the ass clients are going to hire somebody based on the gear that they have, right? And like
Yeah.
and at least that's for me. I don't want to be hired because of the gear that I have. I don't want to be hired because of the, how my studio looks like. That's why I don't have any gear pictures on my website. I don't have any gear list, any like plugins list. It's just like a picture of my dumb face. And it's like, if you like the music that I work on, and you think that, I'm able to accurately represent my perspectives and tastes, and you seem to resonate with that, then we're going to be a really great fit. But if
That's
you're
right.
going to ask me like what, I don't know, like what my monitors are, like what plugins do I use for, mixing or whatever, like, fuck you, I don't care. I
Yeah,
don't
dude.
know.
Well,
Asking the
just
wrong
like,
questions.
just to like prove that point, like I recently lost my first gig ever because I didn't have a Neumann microphone, and I was like, okay, you know what? This is so stupid. Like, literally, who cares? And I was like, let's listen to the songs I've recorded. Just like have a listen. Like, and the client was like, oh, this sounds great, but my producer says your mic's not good enough. And I was like, okay. So this is the exception that's proving the rule. You know what I mean? Like, this is literally the first and only time that has happened to me. So there you
But
go.
so here's the thing, like if you look at it on paper as it's a gig that you didn't get because of that, that says something very different than if you add the context of, the I would call it like the red flag that is
Exactly.
there. I feel like you dodged a bullet, because like if they're making their decisions based on that, not based on the quality of the work that you do, then, and if that's their only reason for not doing it, if it was actually a very important thing, and if it was like, if they had a really strong vision and you were like the right fit musically, but that was the only thing stopping them, they would just rent the microphone. You know what I mean? Like they would just like, okay, cool, we're find a budget, for, I don't know, $80. I don't know. I've never rented a microphone personally, but I guess like whatever it is, like it's not much, right? We're just gonna
Right.
rent the mic for the day to do the session, rent it for a couple hours. But like, if that's a total non-starter, like their priorities of what qualifies as a non-starter is just not based in reality.
Yeah.
At least
It's
as far as I'm concerned.
not based in my reality. So
Yes,
that's
there
all
we go.
right.
There we go. Yeah, yeah.
But also not based in reality, because that's literally never happened before. So anyways, there's that. So
Also, I've in my experience, the clients that want very specific pieces of gear, and now there are exceptions that are like major label artists, and like, okay, different conversation, but also like they understand that's just like a
yeah,
small
listen,
part of
Frank
it.
Sinatra had his U-48. Like I get,
Yeah.
sure.
So again, of course there are exceptions, but it's an exception because it's incredibly rare. But generally speaking, the people that have those real specific, like, oh, you need to have this particular mic, whatever, are also going to try to nickel and dime you for the prices. And it's like, they're like, how do you expect me to have all these fancy mics that you want when you're not even willing to pay me enough, to justify me keeping those kinds of mics around?
Yeah, there's definitely a correlation there. I've seen that. Yeah. Amazing. Well, I think I think I think this is good. I think it's a good place to end this episode. But before we do, we have a little something special for you, and it's a guide to future-proofing your music business. And you can grab it in the show notes below. Do we have we have like a working title for it? What's the working title, Carl?
Let me look real quick.
I could also find it.
The magic of editing.
The Future-Proof Mixing Engineer.
Yes. It's called the Future Proof Mixing Engineer: 6 Essential Skills for 2024 and Beyond. And just to be clear too, it's not just for mixing engineers. A lot of this, I mean, all of it also applies to producers, songwriters, session musicians. This is all applicable to you. So you should download it. It's free. It's helpful, and we think it's. I don't know what I was going to say there. I'm going to try that again.
Good.
So you think it's good?
Go check it out, and let us know what you think. And hopefully it helps you stay future-proofed for this crazy business we are working in. So, yeah. Guys, gals, all y'all, have a good one.
Now I'm going to make you feel awkward before I say bye, because it's the same thing. It's just like in the intro. I have to make you feel uncomfortable.
Oh, man, I'm blushing, guys. I'm blushing.
I hope we can make like a supercut of just the awkward giggling and shifting your weight that you do when you're waiting for me to aggressively say, bye, Ben.
Bye, Carl.